Hey guys, my name's Gary Martin from rggedu.com. Today we're going to be replacing the factory RAM in this old mid-2011 iMac with RAM that we got from OWC. If you have a computer that's a few years old and it's starting to get bogged down, starting to run a little slower than it did when you first got it, one of the two things that you can do to really drastically increase the speed of it is to change the RAM. The other one would be to replace the hard drive, preferably with a solid state drive. So if you have a machine that can do that, consider both options. Today we're just going to be replacing the RAM. Currently there is 8 gigabytes of RAM in this 2011 model, which back in the day was quite a bit of RAM. Now today we're going to be upgrading to 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is going to allow programs like Lightroom, Photoshop, and also have additional programs open at the same time. It's really going to help us accomplish the tasks that we want to and not get bogged down with that spinning wheel of death that I'm sure you're accustomed to. So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we are set up to do it properly without potentially damaging the machine. So as you'll notice here, we are on actually a white plastic table. It's going to be preferable for you to do this on a non-conductive surface. And also, if you go to your local computer store or somewhere like OWC, you want to get a grounding wire or an anti-static wire that will then ground you to the floor. The last thing you want to do is to have a spark or conduct electricity to the computer that could potentially harm the logic board from your fingers. So between the surface that you're working on, grounding yourself, and also having somewhat clean hands, you don't want to be doing this with super greasy fingers. You're going to be good to go. So let's get into it. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have our replacement RAM nearby, so we have somewhere to pull the RAM out and to put in. And the first thing we want to do on this specific model of iMac, the RAM is actually underneath. If you look right at the Apple on the front of the iMac, it is directly underneath, and there are 3 screws that you're going to want to take out, and there's an entire tray that will come off, and then we'll pull the RAM out and put the right RAM in. So let's get into it. You're going to need a set of very small screwdrivers. You can also get those from OWC online at macsales.com. So you are going to need specific screwdrivers. Your standard Phillips head is probably not going to work unless you have super tiny ones for stuff like working on watches. So that's the type of Phillips head you want to use. As you see here, ours is super tiny. So let's get into it. The first thing we want to do is, doesn't matter which one you start with, but just loosen as you go. So I'll go middle, then we'll go to the right, loosen that up. And you'll notice that the screws aren't going to come out individually, but the entire plate will come out. So we'll just loosen as we go, then we'll go back to the center, and that should do it. You might see that the plate is a little stuck if you've never taken this plate off. So work with a little bit, and it should come right out. So as you see there, this entire plate is going to come off. And you won't be able to take these screws out. Don't worry about the screws falling out. They are set in there and they won't come out. So let's place this somewhere where you're not going to forget it. And then with this model iMac, there are almost like 2 film strips that pop out, and you're going to want to pull those, which will pull the RAM out slightly. So the first thing we want to do is find that film strip on the right, and the RAM is going to be stacked on top of each other, 2 on the right, 2 on the left. So we want to pull that film strip down, if you see it right here. And it's kind of uneasy on how hard you have to pull sometimes to get the RAM out. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure, and it almost feels like I'm going to rip this film strip, but you're not. So just work with it, be patient, and you hear there that it just unseated itself and it's starting to come out. So we want to just kind of almost catch the RAM so both of them are coming out at the same time. And what you're going to want to do is memorize exactly how the RAM came out. And one thing you want to keep in mind with the RAM is that there is a groove on the RAM that's either on the left side or the right side, depending on how you're holding it. In this case, there are stickers facing the computer, and the groove is on the left. So we're going to want to take the groove that's on the left of our new RAM and make sure we line it up properly. So the last thing we want to do is trying to be pushing it in when we don't have the groove aligned on the right side. Another thing, do not touch, or try to avoid at all costs touching the gold parts of the ram, the teeth, because we don't want to get the oil from our fingers on that part of the ram. It'll start to corrode, and then you won't be able to use this ram. So we have 2 of them out. We're going to go to the other side, find that other film strip, pop that film strip out, and just pull out. So this side came out a little bit easier, and we're going to take these out. And put them right back in. So now we are ready to install the 32 gigabytes of RAM. So from the top, and I know that the sticker was facing outwards and the groove was on the left, so we're going to follow that same pattern. Get in here, and if you kind of get down, put your head down in there, you'll notice that there are 2 slots. So line yourself up. Go ahead and grab the top of your iMac, because the force that you're going to have to exert on this is a little bit excessive. So you do want to push up, and you'll feel it kind of give, and once you feel that, like that last give, then you know that the RAM is most likely seated correctly. So again, pull it out. I'm not touching any of the gold parts. The groove is on the left. I'm still working on the right side, and I'm finding the second part of the RAM, lining up the tray, and firmly pressing it in. I want to make sure that both sides are pressed in. And, don't be afraid to give a little force here, but don't, baby gorilla the RAM in the wrong way. So with this one, sticker out, and I want to go in. Again, grabbing the top, pushing in. So it might take you a few tries, especially with this model iMac. I've always had a little bit of difficulty getting it in there, so just don't get frustrated. Take your time, do it right, make sure the RAM's lined up correctly, make sure that you paid attention to how the RAM came out, because it's kind of hard to see down in there. And there we go. Just felt it click. So make sure both sides, you're pushing in on both sides, lining it up. Because if you don't get it in all the way upon startup, you're probably going to get an error message, and then you won't be able to use your computer and have to take it apart again. So we'll put the film strip back in. And that's it. We're going to put the tray right back on. Tighten just a little bit at a time. All right, guys, so there you have it. We've taken a computer pushing almost 4 years old, and we've taken it from 8 gigabytes of RAM, and we've maxed it out to 32 gigabytes of RAM from OWC. Cost about $400 to do, but this was quite a costly alternative to buying a new machine. And we're going to see quite a bit of a performance increase in applications like Photoshop and Lightroom, and having those two open at the same time, and having a lot of photos open in Photoshop at the same time. So keep in mind that RAM is going to help your computer's ability really to juggle a lot of programs at the same time and multitask. So that isn't something that the processor does, that's something that the RAM does. If you think about it that way, it's going to take you far in life. So if you've appreciated this tutorial and want to see more, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at RGG EDU. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at RGG EDU. Thanks.